everybody. I'm Caryn Hartglass. I'm here with Gary Mattei, and we're going to bring you another episode of It's All About
Food.
It's all about food. We talk about food every day, whether we like it or not. Somehow food enters the conversation. What should we eat today?
Yes, because longevity is important and you want to power yourself through the day with good, nutritious food. And that's what we're here to talk about. And all of the things that disrupt your flow, the flow, right?
Today is about flow.
Today's about flow, and you'll be hearing more about why it's about flow.
Okay, so to start with, we didn't have a show last week. It was Earth Day.
And your birthday.
More importantly, my birthday.
Happy birthday, Caryn.
Thank you. Whoop, 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 whoop. We took a quick trip to Gary's neck of the woods, Northern California, to visit his family. We had a little Easter moment, not religious, just, community, family, food.
Right. We made some food.
I wanted to talk about that food, Gary. I didn't even plan to talk about it, but I'm remembering now. When we have events with your family, they're always very lovely. It's always great to see everybody, but most of them don't eat like we do.
No.
So we make our own food. And Gary typically makes his seed-encrusted tofu steaks, but we didn't do that this time.
No, we made breakfast burritos.
One of Gary's favorite foods, breakfast burritos.
Well, I figured, if you're going to be making food for everybody to enjoy, give them something that they wouldn't necessarily eat on a holiday. And a tofu-based breakfast burrito sounded like a fun idea. And we made guacamole.
We made a ton of guacamole.
We don't eat what other people prepare, but they always try our food, which is really nice.
We had just some plain beans, pinto and black beans, salt-free, of course. And then you made a tofu scramble. Yeah. I made a mango salsa, the guacamole.
I made some home fries that burned. I would have never expected them to burn, but they did. And we found this really interesting tahini. Tell us about this tahini you found. This was spectacular.
Right. I wanted to talk about tahini, the pros and cons. So the pro, starting first with this particular brand. We're traveling. We don't want to buy too much of anything, but we ended up buying this organic tahini that had
chili powder,
powder, yeah, and sweet paprika. So it had a little pinkish tint and a kick.
It was a real big kick.
Right? When we were also in Vermont, we bought a small container of tahini, and that was great to travel with. But I'm always curious about the tahinis that are so liquidy. So they're really easy to mix in things. They're pourable. These both came in containers where you could turn them upside down and squeeze out the tahini because they're pourable. And that makes me think there's added oil.
Right.
But they don't tell you. Now, what we get at home is artisanal. It's organic. It's like hard as a rock. There's a little oil that settles on the top and you stir it back in. But you can tell that it's really just grounded seeds. There's a dryness to it. And I like it. I think it's a quality product. And these other tahinis, I remember the first tahini I ever had, I forget the name of the brand, but it comes in a can and it's been around forever. But again, it's one of these pourable, very thin, stir with a spoon.
Very oily tahinis.
Yeah, but they don't tell you that the oil's in there. So something to think about.
Now, remind folks what tahini is. Some folks might be tuning in for the first time. And
sure, good point.
Have never heard of tahini. What is tahini?
Tahini is something that's been used for hundreds, maybe thousands of years in the Middle East area. And it's made from sesame seeds, grounded up, just like we grind up peanuts and we grind up almonds and we make almond butter. There's all kinds of nut and seed butters today. This one is sesame seed butter.
Right.
But tahini actually can be a little more complicated. Tahini can mean the dressing made with the sesame butter. If you see tahini in a store, this may include
Right.
lemon juice, olive oil, salt. Yeah, if you see sesame butter, you know it's just sesame seeds.
So it does say sesame tahini. So there must be other tahinis because it specifically says on the jar or on the can, sesame tahini. So a creamy puree of roasted sesame seeds. The
Mhm.
one you were talking about is Joyva.
Oh, that's right, Joyva. Yeah,
Yeah. And it comes in a can. And that's
yeah,
very liquidy. It's
yeah.
got a lot of oil in it. So the question you're asking is the oil added or is the oil from the sesame seeds? And artisana, as you mentioned, does not have a whole lot of oil. Some would say also that if you wanted to, if the oil collected on top, you could actually pour the oil off. So you're really not getting any oil and it just becomes like almost like what is the treat that
Like a
some,
halva.
it almost like a halva, yeah. And a halva is tahini mix, sesame tahini mixed with some sort of sweetener.
Sweetener.
Yeah.
Oh my God,
So
that's so good.
so sometimes we would prefer, sometimes you and I prefer putting, we like peanut butter, but sometimes we prefer sesame tahini over peanut butter. And you can add a little of our apricot butter to it, and it becomes like a halva toast. You put that on toast, it's great.
It
Yeah.
is. And I like variety. So sometimes peanut butter is good, sometimes almond butter is good, sometimes sesame butter is good.
It's
They're
always
all
good to
good.
it's always good to get organic, fair trade, anything. They definitely have organic, fair trade sesame tahinis. And the reason it's good is because people are being treated fairly on the other end. We don't really pay much attention to how our food gets to the table. We just want to make sure it's in the grocery store and we want to make sure it's there and we want to make sure we can buy it. There's a big, huge network of how things get to where we shop. So it's important to try and shop fair trade and, of course, organic because that
I'm
also.
glad you brought that up. I spent a lot of time talking about that a couple of weeks ago about how all our food is connected globally. We need to be mindful of that, especially when we're slapping tariffs on everything everywhere.
Right. So that's going to get more and more difficult to get your food. I
Or
don't want
more
to.
expensive. So back to my birthday. We
Yes.
we were in California and I wanted to see beauty. I wanted to spend a day in nature, and we were fortunate in that Gary's nephew's fiance works
Nicole,
at a
yes.
place called Filoli Gardens, Filoli Historic Mansion and Gardens.
Yeah, gorgeous. It's in
And
Woodside, California.
I had never been there.
One of the most beautiful places on earth, I think. And I haven't been to all of the places on earth, but really gorgeous.
Well,
And
it's one of the beautiful places that has been touched by humans
right.
because there are many groomed gardens and there were tulips, which I love to see on my birthday.
You
But it
do
was
love
really a
tulips.
stunning, peaceful place. The air was fresh and it
Right.
was a great distraction from what's going on all around us.
It was beautiful. And, there's the mansion and then there's the gardens, and it's in the Woodside setting of Northern California, which is off of 280, Highway 280. That's a beautiful highway just to travel
Mm-hmm.
from the South Bay to the north. And it was just a great, great day. I mean, there was no rain, the sky was clear.
And they
Every,
have a little restaurant with some vegan options.
yes.
We had a very nice tofu asparagus salad.
And just to remind folks, you're on an SOS free, sugar, oil, salt free vegan diet. So that makes things a little more difficult when trying to find things for you to eat out in restaurants.
It sure does. But
And
I'm surviving. I will admit
yes,
that we do eat out, not as often as we used to.
right.
And I might make an occasional, like, okay, I'll eat this. I know it's got oil on it or a little salt. But when I make an order in a restaurant, I make sure that if there's going to be those kind of ingredients, they're very small relative to what else is there. Like a big salad, I'll get it without dressing. And there might be some little grilled asparagus or something on there that might have a little oil or salt. I let that go. I'm not that rigid. Then in the evening, we met a bunch of friends at True Food Kitchen. It was really a beautiful evening. I loved how everybody got along so well because not everybody knew each other.
Yeah, True Food Kitchen's a really cool place. We've talked about it before on the show, but for those of you who don't know what a True Food Kitchen is,
It's a
Caryn,
restaurant chain, and it was founded by Dr. Andrew Weil and some of his partners. And it's not a vegan restaurant, but they have numerous vegan options. They're pretty good at customizing. They have gluten-free options. A lot of it is organic, and things tend to be very fresh. They have a
fun.
lot of whole grains.
We had about 10 people,
11.
11. And that was great because it was last minute and they all showed up and it was really fun.
And then when
Uh,
we came home, we had another birthday gathering, this one with most of my family members. And we went to a place called Brooklyn Organic Kitchen, which is not in Brooklyn. It's actually upstate New York in Mahopac, New York.
that was fun.
And it's not a vegan restaurant, but they have many vegan options. A lot of things are organic. They have green juices, and I treated myself to one. And I keep telling myself, I need to get back to green juicing. We used to green juice every day for 10 years after
Yeah,
my romp with cancer. And then I kind of like said, okay, enough of this. But
not
I do like
not
green
good. We
juice.
need
I
to get
like
back to
green
green
juice.
juicing.
Yeah, it really makes a difference, I think.
Yeah, I
At this
agree.
particular place, Brooklyn Organic Kitchen, I got another salad dressing on the side because I didn't want to have the dressing. And it was great. It was a rocket salad, which means it's arugula, and it had some red quinoa in it. And hidden amongst all the goodness were very thinly sliced strawberries. And when I would take a forkful and I would have a strawberry taste in there, it was it was really wonderful. Oh, strawberry.
It
And
was
then
great.
for dessert, I wasn't interested in dessert, but we were celebrating my birthday, and my family knows how we absolutely have to have a candle to blow out at birthday celebrations. So they brought a big bowl of different fruits, bananas and strawberries and some other fruits, and somehow they stuck a candle in the middle.
It was really sweet. Just a great day. Kind of a sad day because we went and visited your mom at the facility
Nursing
that
home.
nursing home she's in. That's awfully sad and depressing, but we got her out. I
We
was
did
really
get her out.
amazed that you all wanted her to be put in the car and driven to a restaurant. That was just really wonderful.
You know, Gary, it's all about food.
Yes, it
And
is.
our family gatherings, as many other people's, are always centered around food. I remember my sister, when we were younger, used to joke that some of the boyfriends she had, their families would center their family events around physical activities, like some kind of outdoor game.
Right.
But ours was always around the table with food. And so naturally, we wanted to bring her out. And I have taken her out of the nursing home on numerous occasions since she's been there. She's been there less than a year. And it was always successful and she enjoyed it. But she's getting older now, as we all are. But this, I don't think we're going to be able to take her out. It was really difficult, and I don't think she enjoyed it as much. And that's what was sad.
That was sad. Right. Correct. But that, as you mentioned, is life. And she's in a very good place. They take care of her 24 hours a day. And that's awful hard to be there to see that. She is deteriorating. But
So
as
one of
you,
the reasons we talk about healthy food on It's All About Food and talk to all the experts is because no one should need to go to a nursing home,
right.
especially for memory care.
Right.
We
Well,
now know there's plenty of evidence that most forms of dementia, including Alzheimer's, are preventable.
sure.
And
And we talk about longevity at the beginning of the show. I mentioned longevity, and longevity in America seems to be more of a curse because of the stigma that you get as you get older. And, those who are considered wise in other cultures are not treated as honorably as they are in other cultures. In our culture, they're treated kind of horribly. And
yeah.
there's this stigma that goes along with it that folks who are of a certain age are looked down upon. And I guess you call that ageism or what have you. So we're here to try to get folks to realize that longevity can be something positive and you can be in control of your own destiny by simply choosing the right foods to eat. For example, your journey now with SOS-free cooking is not only going to improve your health, but it's going to improve your mind, which is part of your mental health.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of things that you talk about on this program, people that you interview on this program, that support a nutrient-dense diet to fight these things like Alzheimer's and to fight cancers and diabetes. And we
And
go
it
on.
doesn't mean that you're not going to die,
Oh, no,
because
of
we all
course not.
die. It doesn't mean that you won't get ill, because unfortunately, there are a few leaders in the plant-based movement, some of them on SOS-free diets, that get
Right.
cancer. And
So it's
I know
important.
I have high cholesterol, and I don't know if it's lowering. I've gotten different blood results. I need to have some kind of consistency, but I'm still sticking with it because I really feel the benefits.
And you need to be informed of the truth. And we talk a lot about how we bring you the truth and not through subsidized programming or for-profit corporate news, but we're bringing you the truth on this little tiny podcast called It's All About Food. You need to be informed of the truth. You need to be a witness living outside the gated communities of broadcast news.
I just
And
wanted to mention one more time those breakfast burritos we made for the Easter celebration. So that was on Sunday, and we had left, when did we leave? On Wednesday. And we had made so much that we had breakfast burritos on Monday, on Tuesday, and on Wednesday.
they were so good. We
And then it
had
was like
the
enough.
greatest breakfast burritos. It was tofu scramble, beans, guacamole in a sprouted organic tortilla, sprouted
By
wheat organic
Ezekiel,
tortilla.
Food for Life.
What else did we put in there?
Then the
What's
mango salsa.
mango salsa, which you made, which was great.
And then if you wanted to drizzle some extra tahini, that chipotle chili spicy tahini, you could do that.
And yeah, I mean, I know a lot of folks are weight conscious, and I think we lost weight again on this vacation. So,
Well, at least maintained.
yeah, exactly. And we walked a lot, which is also really important, is to get a lot of exercise. It was great.
Yeah, so the last thing I wanted to say about this SOS free diet, and maybe it's not the last thing, but I happily lost about 12, 13 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
And I never thought that I needed to lose weight, but I like the slimmer me. And it's been challenging to find belts because America is filled with larger people, and finding belts that fit are challenging, but we found them.
But also finding belts that aren't made of leather are
Exactly.
challenging.
Yeah, synthetic
And
leather, small
synthetic
belts.
leather is what you were looking for. And you found them yesterday at
The
the Gap.
Gap.
We fell into the Gap,
Yeah.
and it was
Now, they may
wonderful.
not be perfect on other levels. I don't know, but I was grateful to find them. And now I can hold my
Yeah.
pants up.
Yeah. I was overweight my entire life until about 18 years ago. when I met someone named Karen Hartglass, and she informed me of the truth about food. I mean, it's no secret that I was overweight and I was sent to specialists as a child that were supposed to help me lose weight. And they said I should drink diet sodas and eat hot dogs with sauerkraut, no bun, of course. Also, I would take these little yellow pills every morning before school. They prescribed those, and they made me feel like I was that cartoon bird who was always being chased by the coyote. I,
Oh,
I, I still don't know what those tiny little yellow pills were made of, but I called them pee pills because they made me have to go to the bathroom a lot.
mm.
Apparently, they were supposed to curb my appetite, but really all they did for me was keep me up at night.
So they were speed, some sort of speed, right?
Must have been. I never really looked into it, but I'm sure they
Yeah.
were. But this was way back in the 60s when they would give you things that, well, I guess they're still doing that, that
Unfortunately,
aren't
they
good for
are.
your health.
Yep.
But diet sodas, I would learn later through you, they're not really the best thing to drink if you want to lose weight, correct?
Something that always boggles my mind, and it's not just with sodas, but when you let somebody know that something they're consuming isn't healthy for them and they just keep doing it anyway, it just boggles my mind.
Yeah, so I mean, I would drink diet sodas, and it would just this lasted my entire life. One day, you and I were talking about it early in our relationship, and you said, well, and I said, and I just kept gaining weight, but I was drinking all of this diet soda.
Hmm.
And you said, well, you were drinking diet soda that contains aspartame, which is found in Diet Coke, which is what my diet soda of choice was. And aspartame stimulates your
Your
appetite.
appetite. It stimulates your appetite. Isn't that
So,
nice?
so that's an interesting thing because it also depletes bone mass, causing
Hmm.
osteoporosis as well as staining my teeth.
Well,
Now,
that's likely the phosphoric acid that's in sodas that are artificially sweetened, but also naturally sweetened.
right. So there's all of this information that's going around out there that we don't get as consumers,
You have to
and
look for it.
you have to look for it, or you have to tune into It's All About Food.
I just want to say something here. I talk about politics from time to time, not a lot. I believe in government, and I believe that the government is here or should be here to protect us. Because in a capitalistic society where the goal is to profit, that naturally leads to exploitation. It naturally leads to cutting costs at all possible expenses. There's a pun in there somewhere.
Right.
And so people may not be creating the best products possible because they want to make the best profit. And so government comes in and says, you have to do this. You can't make something like this because it contains things that hurt people, or you can't be dumping all kinds of toxins into the waterways, or you can't be polluting into the atmosphere. And I believe that these rules should be there and they should be strong. And
Right.
companies should be made to follow them, because you could make rules and then they won't follow them. And then what's the point? Now, I
Exactly.
don't think the government should be telling us how to think or what religion we should follow. Although I would like the government to guide us in terms of health and nutrition. They shouldn't have to tell us, what we need to eat. They shouldn't be telling us who we can love, those sorts of freedoms. So it's a complicated balance. And
It's
right
a
now things
slippery slope.
yeah, and right now things are kind of going in all the wrong directions, where the protections we did have for the environment are being taken away. And corporations are now having less regulations. A lot of the regulations that have been put in place are being taken away. So we wonder how safe our food system is going to be going forward. And we have allowed over time all kinds of synthetic ingredients into our food, like aspartame and other artificial sweeteners, and they're not healthy for us.
No. And the other things that we need to be made aware of, which I'm sure some folks are aware of these things, is that there's toxic ingredients that are hiding in a lot of things that we use that aren't
Hmm.
necessarily food, but are products that we use as a result of having to go to the bathroom. For example, I never knew there was so much shit in my toilet paper before I used it, right? I
Toilet
mean,
paper is a fascinating subject.
yeah, so there's so many toxic ingredients that are hiding in most toilet papers.
So
I
this
mean,
show is it's all about food, and we talk about food, but we also talk about things that go into our body, like personal care products and the air we breathe and the water we drink. And the toilet paper we wipe our butts with because they've got stuff in them that can irritate us and actually cause harm.
right. And we're talking about longevity. And if you want to live longer and live better, you need to be aware of these things.
So
So,
I was
sure.
reading about the history of toilet paper,
Hmm.
and it's kind of interesting what people have used to wipe their butts over the years and how we've become, I think for good reasons, we've become more concerned about things being clean and sterile. But there used to be these sponges on a stick that people would wipe their butts with in these communal places, and they'd share them.
Right. Not good. Not good. We have we have come a long way as far as that's concerned. But let's talk about some of these ingredients that are hiding in most toilet papers.
Mm-hmm.
Chlorine. Now,
Right.
chlorine, this can sometimes be used to bleach toilet paper, right?
Right.
The chlorine bleaching process can create harmful byproducts that end up in our water systems.
So the thing with toilet paper is what are the things that might affect us personally, and then what are going down the pipes and getting into
Right,
our water system.
right. So that's alarming. Uh, what's another one? Oh,
Well,
and the reason folks use chlorine is because we want white toilet paper, which is completely crazy. But we want to see this white toilet paper before we use it on our bodies.
mhm.
I remember when I was growing up, toilet paper came in a lot of different colors, and then there was this big study that came out that said, no, no, the color is bad for you. It's got to be white.
Yeah,
And
so dyes and inks, they can sometimes trigger allergies or they could irritate sensitive skin. And that's an area where skin can get sensitive.
so then somebody said, okay, well, if people want white toilet paper, we're going to bleach it. And, what could be cleaner than bleach, right? Everybody uses bleach in the water, but bleach is really not, chlorine bleach is really not that good for humans, correct?
No, that's correct. Well, that's why we filter and distill our water because we don't want to be drinking it. It's there to take the bacteria out, keep the tap water relatively safe to drink. And I'm using air quotes when I say safe, but the additives we don't want to drink either.
So even when you're bleaching your clothes, for example, that's not the best thing to do because once you
No,
there's residue and
it goes into our waterways. It's
right,
very harmful. Hydrogen peroxide is a better choice if you feel like you need to have some kind of
right.
whitening agent in your clothes.
Terrific. Yeah, and there's a lot of humiliation in America advertising as well. I mean, we've all seen those ring around the collar commercials growing up, and if you didn't bleach your collars, if you didn't get out those nasty stains, then you were a lesser human being than the ones that had these bleached white bright collars.
Right.
And
And what do I do, Gary, when sometimes when I want to clean a white shirt collar, I take some simple white soap or clear soap, and in the sink I rub the collar with the soap for a while, and then I let it soak, and then I put it in the laundry. But while I'm rubbing the collar with the soap, I'm singing, ring around the collar, ring
right,
around the collar.
right, exactly. I mean, who could forget those commercials?
Those
Um,
dirty rings.
and if you had ring around the collar, you were just a lesser human being than other folks.
For
So,
me, it's fragrance. For me, it's fragrance. I'm very sensitive to smells, and I don't like all of these unnatural fragrances, but there are some toilet papers that have a fresh smell.
right. And those fragrances aren't good for you. They contain, as you would put it, a cocktail of chemicals
Yeah.
that irritate your sensitive areas and even lead to skin discomfort. Be careful of using
And then there are
fragrances.
even more dangerous products. So there's BPA, and there's been a lot of knowledge about BPA linings in cans. And a lot of canned foods today, at least the ones in the stores that we shop in, will say no BPA. It's an acronym for products found in plastic, and they can mess with our hormone balance. So a lot of cans don't have BPA in them. They might have changed to something else that we haven't discovered is dangerous yet. But right
Right.
now, we don't want BPA in our drinking bottles and our cans. But you can find it in some toilet papers. And one of the reasons is, especially in the recycled paper products,
Hmm.
because they're recycled, there could be plastic residues in the paper that's been recycled. So they get into your toilet paper.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And then the other one, my favorite, is the PFAs, the per and polyfluoroalkyl substances. And where did they come from? PFAs. We've talked about PFAs on
You're the
pots and
chem
pans.
you're the chemical engineer. Where did they come from?
Teflon. There was
Teflon.
a chemist that worked for DuPont, and in 1938, Roy Plunkett invented Teflon. And gosh, it seemed to be the most amazing thing, coating all kinds of pots and pans and making things non-stick. We all loved it. And Teflon is also used in all kinds of like high-end sport clothing to protect against all kinds of things
Wow.
in weather, whatever. But there's a byproduct, and that's these PFAs, and they're really dangerous.
Forever chemicals, quote
Right.
unquote.
They like last forever. Yeah.
And they are linked to various health issues, including cancer and infertility.
Right.
So
And they
these
last.
chemicals can enter the water systems and persist in the environment, raising concerns about their impact on human health and ecosystems,
And
quote
they're in the
unquote.
toilet paper.
They are in toilet paper as well as formaldehyde.
Oh, that's there too.
It's often used in the paper making process to keep it strong. It's known to be a potential irritant and is linked to some health concerns. Wow. Okay, so that's just toilet paper.
Right. So you
And
may be seeing, I know I have, I've been seeing these little promos on Facebook with some actors sitting on a toilet and promoting a more sustainable, healthier brand of toilet paper. I'm not going to mention any brands right now because some are better than others. I think no one brand is perfect, and you
mhm,
have to do your own research. I'll include some links in this post. But at the very minimum, you want to avoid dyes and inks and BPA and formaldehyde and fragrances and chlorine.
right.
Some of the products that don't have PFAs may be made from new plants, new trees. So they're not as sustainable because
Right.
they cause the cutting down of trees. It's a really it's a conundrum. Humans are such a problem. How do animals do it?
Exactly. I think they must have I think they must have bidets. They must have bidets. Animals must have these little ways of washing out their bottoms with natural spring water or something.
So we have a little bidet on our toilet seat. It's called a tushy. It's very inexpensive. There are fancier versions. We do not have the fancy version. This just spurts water.
It
I think
cuts
it's
down it cuts down the use of toilet paper a lot. I mean, you still need a little to wipe you know.
Right. It doesn't air dry. And I've been on toilets that supposedly air dried, and I never felt quite comfortable with it.
No.
But you could use cotton. You could use old cotton and rags and things, but you still have to wash them. And so that's an environmental impact, just having to wash them all the time.
Right. And I know that toilet paper is made so that it breaks down easier in the water. As soon
Mm-hmm.
as it hits the water, it starts to break down, starts to decompose. And that's good. That's why they don't want you flushing anything else other than toilet paper. And a lot of toilet systems don't go directly to the sewer line, and they go into a septic tank and on and on and on. But how does one find out what is in their toilet paper? Because the ingredients aren't on the packaging, right?
You have to go to their websites.
Mm-hmm.
I think some companies are more transparent than others. Seventh Generation has a whole FAQ, but they're careful about what they say.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, they'll tell you that they don't intentionally add things to their products. They don't intentionally add BPA and BPS. It's not used in their manufacturing process, but it may enter through the recycled paper feedstock. So there may be trace amounts. The same with PFAs.
Right.
But they don't use chlorine, and they don't have fragrances or formaldehyde. So that's good. And they say that their products have trace levels of these forever chemicals, that so they're trying to tell you that their product is relatively safe. And we have used seventh generation, and it's a choice what you're going to use, because there are other ones that have certain things and don't have certain things. I'll include some links and some articles that discuss this if you want to dig further,
Mm-hmm.
but it's challenging.
Hydrogen peroxide is used in seventh generation. Let's talk about hydrogen peroxide, because when you were talking about scrubbing collars, you have also used hydrogen
Mm,
peroxide to magically remove stains.
okay, can
And
I tell you a joke? Two guys go
yes,
into a bar.
right,
One orders H2O.
right.
The second guy orders H2O2. He died.
H2O2.
Two. So
I get
that's
it.
hydrogen peroxide is two oxygens and two hydrogens.
A chemical engineer would find that hysterical.
But I like using H2O2, hydrogen peroxide, for a variety of things. Now, what you can get in the store is like 3%, and you can gargle with it if you dilute it. I used to do 1 part peroxide and 1 part water, but now I think it's better to do 2 parts water and 1 part peroxide. You don't want it that strong. But I like to use it to remove certain stains, and maybe use a little baking soda as well. And the key ingredient when you're using these gentler chemicals on your clothes is thyme.
Time
I'll
the yes,
Thyme.
not
Time.
not the herb. Baking soda and hydrogen peroxide diluted, and a lot of elbow grease is a great way to get out ring around the collar.
Yeah, and soap. I like to mix the acids with the bases. So a soap is a alkaline product and a peroxide is an acidic product, and you mix them together, they get all excited and hot.
That's great. And I've
But
seen it
time
work.
is the key. You've got to let it, I kind of like put the stuff on, wrap it up, and just leave it in the bathroom for a while so that it can work. Takes time, but it
Yeah,
works.
and folks don't want to spend that kind of time. They want it to happen instantly.
Yeah.
That seems to be a lot of the problem as well, is you want to get things on sale too. And if there's 500 rolls of toilet paper on sale, you're not going to really care much about what's in it. You just know it's going to be there when you need it. You're not really concerned because, there are things that you don't think about. I get that. You're in a hurry.
Yeah, but we want you to think about toilet paper.
We
It's
want you to
not
think
just what
about
goes in.
everything you're putting into your body. We want you to think about everything you put into your body and everything and how it gets to the place that you purchase it. And now you don't even go to a place anymore because you just order everything online and it comes to your front door. How does it get there? Who goes through the process of making sure it's there for you? I mean, that's gratitude right there. It's just, you don't even think about it, but it's like somebody went through several steps to get this to a place where I could then get it. There's a sense of gratitude in all of this as well. That would be nice to get back into feeling grateful. And that's why it's important to try to get things that are organic and fair trade and make sure that folks are being compensated for working so hard to get foods and beverages to our tables.
Yeah, we are an interesting species, though. We create things as a solution for something, and then they typically only create more problems, like PFAS.
So toilet paper is an unexpected source of PFAS, right?
Yeah.
Unexpected source, as the articles that you will post will say.
What was interesting in this study that was done, they showed that France had a larger amount of these PFAS in their wastewater from the toilet paper than we did here in the United States. And it's different around the world because of the recycled products that people will put in their papers. So I'm reading here from this study that the PFA levels in sewage and per capita toilet paper use in various countries, they calculated that toilet paper contributed to about 4% of the, they call it the 6-2 DIPAP in sewage in the United States and Canada, and 35% in Sweden, and up to 89% in France.
Well, there you go. That's
So,
something for you to talk about on your French podcast.
en français. Oh, oui,
Right.
oui. But it's not just from toilet paper, because it's also from cosmetics, textiles, food packaging, and other sources.
Cosmetics and cleansers,
Yeah, a lot of stuff goes down the drain.
things that you clean yourself with aren't necessarily clean. We have a lot of crap in our toilet paper before we even use it. You heard it first here. I'm sure you didn't hear it first, but you heard it here on It's All About Food.
Yeah, you've got to read the ingredients for everything, bottom line.
And if you can't find the ingredients, send us an email.
We'll try and find it for you.
We'll try and find it for you.
Our email is info@realmeals.org, info@realmeals.org.
Yes. And you can have clever little headings. Speaking of puns, all the ways we've wiped, the history of toilet paper, and what came before. And really, when you think about it, we're very lucky to have things like toilet paper.
Well, we realized during the pandemic
Mm-hmm.
how important it was, and people were stocking up on it thinking that they were going to run out.
Right. And that means manufacturers were sort of panicking and mass producing at a rate maybe where they weren't as careful about what went into their toilet paper. They just needed to get it on the shelves.
Yeah, that's why I like the bidet, because even if you're still going to use some toilet paper, you're going to use less.
Exactly. The bidet is a great idea.
I mean, another option is to use your hand.
Yeah, that
and
is an
then
option.
wash your hand afterwards.
Well, I mean, when you think about it, there are some folks who don't have the modern convenience.
Absolutely.
Some folks don't have these modern conveniences. Some folks are living out on the streets.
Yep.
And we see here in New York City, especially, that there's human feces all over New York. Not enough bathrooms for folks who are unhoused. And that should be corrected. There should be places for everyone to go to the bathroom. But how many times have you gone into a restaurant to go to the bathroom and they've said, no, it's just for people who use.
All right, just for our customers.
So there's a whole sociological problem with doing the things that all of us do. Every one of us goes to the bathroom. Every one of us needs to defecate, needs to urinate. And yet we treat this thing that we all do like it's exclusive to people who can only afford to buy toilet paper. And that's not the case.
Well, that reminds me of the musical Urinetown.
Exactly. Privatizing water. That's what Euratown was about.
And having to pay to pee.
Having to pay to pee because they
And
would
you know,
use
we
that
may
pee.
get there.
For sure. We're already there, but we just don't know it yet. We're already in a lot of places that we thought was science fiction that we aren't really cognizant of. 10 years ago, we thought that's never going to happen, and it's already happening. Why are we saying any of this? It's not to depress you, it's just to hopefully lift the veil and allow you to see that we care about what goes into our bodies. We want to pass that on to you.
I'm laughing to myself a little bit, Gary, because when people eat a whole food plant diet filled with fiber, they
Yeah,
tend to move their bowels more frequently than other people.
yeah. No,
That's
I mean,
they
that's,
may need more toilet paper.
I have never been so regular, which is why this topic is important. Because the older you get, the more you hear people complain about how it's more difficult for them to go to the bathroom. I'm sorry, on a whole food plant-based diet, that's not a problem.
That's not a problem.
I actually go 3 or 4 times a day now. Again, this is a subject I feel okay talking about because we all do this. That's
Last
not
year for my birthday, one of the things you got me was a pair of socks that said, "Love me a good poop."
love me a good poop. And you know, men out there who are listening, hey, guys, there's a thing called our prostates and how we're, as we get older, they start to malfunction on us. Not so on a plant-based, whole food plant-based diet, especially if you incorporate seeds like flax seeds. I have it on excellent authority that 3 tablespoons of flax seeds a day in your food will help your prostate more than you know,
That's right.
and can
3
actually.
tablespoons for men, 2 tablespoons for women.
And there's a lot of studies going on now about should we be eating more seeds? Nutrient dense and packed full of potent vitamins and minerals, seeds have a lot to offer when it comes to your health, says an article in Vegetarian Times this month on their homepage. And I want to say it's true. Those flax seeds really help you pee and help that prostate. So, what I do every morning, guys, is I take 3 tablespoons of ground flax seeds and I put them in my oatmeal and I mix up the oatmeal and then I add the fruit and the raisins and the dried fruit and the fresh fruit and the berries and a little bit of plant milk and top it with a little apple butter. That's how I get my flax seeds every day. It goes into my cereal bowl. And again, oatmeal's pretty good for keeping you regular. So you're going to be just fine if you do that. Your colon is going to be scrubbed and your prostate's going to be smiling.
Flax seeds are pretty magical.
Yeah.
And people may be confused because they're hearing a lot of stuff against seed oils these days. In
Not the
fact,
same as the actual seed itself that you're ingesting.
no, it's a highly processed food.
Yeah.
Although I want to say that if you're ranking beef tallow versus seed oil, I would use an organic seed oil.
No, exactly.
But we
Leave the
prefer
cows
to not
leave the
use oil.
cows alone and just
No,
get the seeds. So
exactly.
we were talking about sesame seeds on this program. Now we're
Mm.
talking about flax seeds. There are tons of other seeds,
And,
sunflower seeds,
and we were talking about flow.
and we're talking about flow.
And these seeds help you flow.
Yeah, there's this stuff called Flow Max that's out on the market. I don't know what's in that, and I don't want to use it, but I will tell you this: flax seeds help. And then there's pumpkin seeds, and there's sunflower seeds, and there's, oh gosh,
Sesame seeds, of course, we
poppy
talked about
seeds.
poppy seeds. I make
Yeah,
a garbanzo bean flatbread with 6 seeds on it. Caraway
yeah.
seeds, uh,
Caraway seeds are great.
poppy, sesame, sunflower, pumpkin, and fennel.
Fennel seeds, they have a
Yeah.
great flavor.
Yeah, they're also good for us.
And so we grind our own flax seeds, as you've heard Caryn say over and over and over again. Don't buy them ground, grind them yourselves, get a spice grinder, do all
If
of
you
that.
consume flax seeds whole, they will just flow right
Right.
through and come out the other end unused.
So you have to grind them. Now, everyone's talking about the price of eggs, but I'm telling you, a great egg substitute in your
Mm.
baking is ground flax seeds and water. It makes like a great egg whitey kind of consistency, and you can put that in there. It's a great egg substitute. So you can just ditch the eggs, leave them for the hens, and
Yeah,
and
thanks for bringing that up. That whole egg
yeah,
story
I
is
thought it's
just insane.
a good time to segue into that egg debacle. There's a lot of different things happening. I understand that Just Egg is experiencing record sales because of the egg prices. And I know a lot of people probably use eggs and people are buying chickens. And you were mentioning something, I don't know if you said it on your show last week, that there is a new study out about this way of detecting whether or not the egg is an egg laying hen
Oh
in
yeah.
in the shell or if it's a rooster.
Right,
And
you
you
can
know,
you can tell the sex of the chicken in the egg, so you can separate them before they're born and thus prevent having to mutilate the male chicks or just grind them up alive. Because who needs a male chick when you're at a egg laying facility?
right. So what they normally do is they take the chicks after they're laid, they determine the sex, and if they're a male chick, then they grind it up and put it in
Or they
feed,
just throw them in a dumpster and smother them. It's lovely.
throw them in a dumpster, smother them.
So the author of
Nature.
this article thought, oh, this is a great thing. But like my dad used to say, if you can't solve a problem, eliminate the problem. The problem needs to be eliminated. We should not be taking eggs from hens. We don't need to eat them, period.
And I found that a great egg substitute to put in your baked goods is a flaxseed, ground flax seeds and water. I think the ratio is something like,
3 tablespoons of water to 1 tablespoon of flaxseed.
there you go. I knew you would have the right ratio.
We've been using ground flax seeds as an egg replacer for a very long time. Before aquafaba came around,
Right.
I would sometimes try and make a meringue with flax seeds. It works. It's just aquafaba is so much better.
So seeds are magical. You've heard it in the Grimm fairy tale, Jack's magic beans. A bean can sprout and grow into a large vine, and it can lead you to magical places. Eat more seeds. Yes, we
Eat
should be
more
eating more
seeds.
seeds. I like the fact that I can use flax seeds to help my prostate. Bum, 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 bum. And what else are good? What else are flax seeds good for?
They're good for the heart. They're good for the brain. They're just good.
Yeah.
So a couple of things I wanted to reference before we go, because it's really time to wrap up. When we were talking about aspartame, I had a wonderful interview when I started this podcast with Jim May of Sweet Leaf Stevia. He taught me how to say stevia, that we all say it's stevia, and he called it stevia. Subtle. I'm going to include that link because he went into the whole story of trying to get stevia approved for consumption. And it was competing with aspartame at the time. And it's a crazy, crazy story how Donald Rumsfeld, who actually had a connection, a financial connection with aspartame, he just made it very difficult for stevia to be approved by the FDA, whereas aspartame was kind of pushed through, even though there were things that they discovered about aspartame that weren't healthy. And so Jim May had he could use stevia in skincare products. He could sell it as a skin product, and it's supposed to be good on your skin, stevia, the stevia leaf. And he uses these natural products from stevia. It took a long time for the product to finally be approved for consumption, and he worked on it for decades. But it was
Wow.
just how capitalism kind of got
Yeah.
involved and some corruption got involved, and it's all there for you to read, and I'll include that link.
Oh, terrific. Speaking of skincare, you have been working with vitamin C. How's that going for you? I've
Yeah, that's a
noticed that
good question. Oh, thank you.
you have a healthy, sexy glow.
Oh, it's not working as I would like it to work, and I don't know if it's really making a difference. But Dr. Greger some time ago posted on his website, and it's probably in some of his books, where you can use a solution of vitamin C in water and use it on your face, and it's supposed to reduce wrinkles. Now, there are a lot of skincare products that include vitamin C, but they have to have a preservative in them because the vitamin C and other products in the cream will degrade. So you can make your own and
Right.
splash it on your
Well,
face.
I think it does wonders.
Oh, thank you.
It's beautiful.
Well, there you go.
Uh,
There's a tip. I'll include that article in there for this
yeah.
program
So you
too.
need to get more vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, fiber, protein that isn't animal based. Plant-based diets are great for all of those things, adding more of that stuff into your life.
Yeah, the last thing I want to say is next week, I'm going to be talking with Will Potter, and he has a new book out called Little Red Barns, Hiding the Truth from Farm to Fable. He's the author of Green is the New Red, and I spoke to him years ago when that book came out. It's going to be a chilling read. I haven't started it yet, but I will have it read by next week, and we'll be talking quite a lot about this. It's a groundbreaking investigation which exposes the powerful forces at work to hide the harms of industrial agriculture. And we know what industrial agriculture means. It means all the plants that are grown to feed animals, as well as the animals that are involved to put food on your plate. Industrial agriculture needs a lot of change.
Take care of yourselves. Know what it is that you're putting in your bodies, as well as what you're using to wipe your butts. Tune in to It's All About Food because Caryn knows. It's simple as that. You'll be thankful. You'll be grateful, like I am, for you, Caryn. Thank you so much for saving my life, changing my life, lifting the veil, and letting me see that I can be in charge of me,
Mm, that's so
right?
important. I can be in charge of me. That would be a good mantra or good affirmation to say.
Well, it's important to remember that you can be in control of you, and you don't need anybody else to tell you what to do. Okay, just remember, as Nietzsche said, the individual has always had to struggle to keep from being overwhelmed by the tribe. If you try it, you will be lonely often, and sometimes frightened, but no price is too high to pay for the privilege of owning yourself.
Ooh,
Friedrich Nietzsche said
ooh,
that a long time
brilliant.
ago.
Wow.
So I'll leave you with that, Caryn.
Thank
Thanks a
you.
lot for letting me come on your show today. Thanks,
Eh,
everybody, for listening about wiping our butts.
Everybody have a delicious week.
Bye.
Bye.